Welcome to the Momship Mastery Podcast, the ultimate destination for moms seeking balance, connection, and growth in their journey through motherhood. I'm your host, master's level therapist and life coach, Andrea Baker. Here at the Momship Mastery, we believe that motherhood is a purposeful journey filled with discoveries, challenges, and countless opportunities, from self-care strategies to relationship building, from spiritual growth to parenting insights. I've got you covered. So, if you're ready to embark on this journey with us, hit that subscribe button and let's explore the world of motherhood, relationships, and growth together. Remember, you're not alone on this journey, and we're here to support you every step of the way. All right. Welcome, Krista, to the Momship Mastery Podcast. I am so excited to have you on today and to dive into this conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, I want to start off. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey from becoming a chef to get into relationship and being a relationship mentor?
Oh, for sure. I've always had an interest in food from an early age. My mom was a great cook and always made really amazing meals. She used to say that I was under her feet so much she thought she'd turn it into something positive. So she taught me to cook. But that passion carried through my life. Eventually, I decided I want to go to cooking school. So I went to a culinary school in Paris and had a wonderful time living the life and learning all the fine cooking, the basic techniques and everything. And then I worked in kitchens for many years and then got out of working in kitchens because I wanted to have a family, and working in a kitchen is a lot of time on your feet and whatnot. So I went into relationship coaching and, helping people find happiness and maintain happiness, which is sort of the other passion in my life. I was a single mom for years and I knew I wanted someone to share my life with. And I was lucky enough to find that amazing person. And so I thought, how can I bring my two passions together, which are helping people and love, and also the whole cooking thing? That is how the relationship chef was born, because I think that cooking is a part of everybody's life, right? Every meal you have, or every event, graduation, weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, whatever, there's always food involved. Food is so central to our lives. I want to bring it together with people so that they can cook together and feel that connection, that passion again.
Wow, that's so amazing. Combined your love for culinary arts with that passion for people and relationships. I have a lot of questions about that. I guess we're going to start, what type of impact have you seen culinary arts and cooking together have on relationships?
Well, it's funny because cooking, making dinner is something we do every day, and it becomes mundane, right? Just what am I going to make for dinner? Okay, well, we'll do this. And, will the kids like it? Will my husband like it? Will my wife, or whoever it is who's doing the cooking. And when you sort of shift the thinking a little bit and you think, okay, I have this person who I've chosen to spend my life with, but, work gets in the way and life gets in the way and we haven't really connected. And, you want to create that connection, foster that connection. Food is a really easy way because you have to have dinner anyways, right?
Yeah.
And so when you say to your partner, hey, I really want to connect with you, I love you, our relationship is important, it's easy to say, let's turn dinner into a date night. We don't have to leave the house. We can do it at home. We can do it in the comfort of our own kitchen. Going out to dinner is nice, but it's not intimate the way it can be. It's more intimate being at home, and the conversation can be different. So when you're cooking and, I've given you the whole plan with the shopping and the recipes and the videos to create all of this, then you can make your own time. And it can become a fun bonding experience. If you're good at one thing and your partner's good at something else, then switch it up and you do the thing you're not as comfortable with. And at the end of the day, I think we've all had the experience that sometimes our failures are the most memorable moments. So it doesn't even have to turn out perfectly for it to be amazing.
Yeah, I think initially I would feel like it's a lot of pressure because my husband would offer to help cook and things like that. And we kind of have these set thoughts of how things are supposed to be cooked and all these other things. But when you said if it's something that you're comfortable with or you're not comfortable with, switch it up and you try to think, that's kind of intimidating, isn't it?
But who better to step out of your comfort zone with than the person who you've chosen to share your life with? And I have to tell you, I'm a control freak in the kitchen, right? It didn't start out me wanting to cook alone. It started out with, like you said, people being intimidated and no one wanted to cook with me. Then it sort of morphed into, this is my kingdom, stay out, I'm in control.
Right.
But now it's come around again. So my partner, we always joke and I say, I've heard a rumor that you know how to cook, but I've never seen evidence, because it's just easy for me to cook. But now he comes in and helps me in the kitchen. And I've understood that when he says, can I help you? He genuinely means, can I help you?
Yeah.
And I give him the crappy chores. Like, here, you peel the potatoes, you peel the apples, you peel
Dice
the onions,
tips.
whatever, right? He doesn't get the glam jobs. But at the same time, I love having him in the kitchen with me. And he likes it because he learns from me. And it's just time together doing something different. We're turning some everyday chore into a moment that we are sharing. You're in the kitchen with your partner, you've got that extra time for a kiss or a hug or whatever.
Those
And
intimate
it's just
touches and points.
sort of the natural conversation piece of the meal that you're creating. And then once you've created the meal, you sit down and enjoy what you've made together. And I think it's the ultimate team building experience.
So I feel like in this era that we are in life, there's a lot less eating at the dinner table nowadays. Like I see it a lot less. We're often eating in front of the TV, or where everybody's not at the same time and things like that. So I guess it's a twofold question. In one, how, for the family unit, how do you suggest getting back to dinner time being that core function, or like that core time, and not just a hustle, hustle, hustle. We have to eat, so eat, And then for the busy parents or the busy mom who's like, I just have to cook, how do we take the steps to bring her to a place where she feels open to invite that partner into the kitchen with her for a leisure time?
Well, that's a really good point. And I am complete agreement with you that we need to get back into the kitchen. My kids are almost grown now. They're 24, 21, and 18. So, I barely even see them, let alone spend time in the kitchen, although we were all here last night and, making things together. I was always really very strict about having our dinners together. So I had, 3 kids, and there was basketball and lacrosse and hockey and everything going on. And so I knew what the schedule was. So dinner time was not a set time every day.
Okay.
It's like Riley has basketball and Paris has basketball and JJ has lacrosse. So we have to have dinner at 4:30. And sometimes dinners were a weird time. But to me, there were 2 things that were important. One of them was us getting together as a family and talking and having that time. But the second thing was having nutritious meals for my kids. So yes, we could have swung by McDonald's on the way, but I don't want my athletes starting their exercise on McDonald's, right? So I think it's a commitment that you make to yourself first and to your family second, to say, okay, I'm going to stand by this and I'm going to find times to schedule dinner in. And I think that nowadays, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think nowadays we give our kids too much choice. Do you want this or do you want that? Or, what do you want for dinner? And you have parents who are making 2 or 3 things for dinner and 2 or 3 things for breakfast or whatever. And for me, I knew what my kids liked. And I said, okay, this is what we're having for dinner. For breakfast, I'd usually say, do you want oatmeal, cereal, scrambled eggs, or a waffle? Things that are easy that you can sort of do all at once. But I think that sort of insisting that the kids put down their phones and come to the table and engage is hugely valuable. And they resist it so much of the time, right? Because God forbid you could be without this for 2 seconds. You have to have your phone. But the difference it makes to yourself, your family, the memories that the kids grow up. Kids will not grow up with memories of who they're talking to on Snap. Kids will remember, oh, mom used to make this and it was amazing. And, we used to, our dinner times were so rambunctious. I had to make a rule that there was no singing at the table. Right? It's hard sometimes because sometimes, especially as a single mom for me, it was easier sometimes to just give in than fight with them.
Yeah.
So sometimes you do, but I think that when you stand your ground and encourage your kids to appreciate that family time, the reward is huge.
Yeah, definitely. I know with my kids, we do have a lot of afternoon and evening things usually going on, but I try to keep dinner at a certain time to make sure they know when they expect it. And it's gotten to the point where we sit down at the table, everybody's sitting, and my son's like, "Oh, family talk. Is it time for family talk?" Like that's the expectation. So everybody goes around and talks
Awesome.
about their day and that type of thing. But it can be difficult to try to maintain the coreness of it and just like picky kids, and it's just like, no, we're gonna eat this, and that can be overwhelming for me and maybe for other moms also. So like that's really important, having the understanding of where choices are permitted and when they don't. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to have boundaries. My son went through a phase where he would hardly eat anything. And so I made him eggs. And of course, he's the youngest, right? So he
Of
got
course.
away with more than the two did. We went through a phase where the whole family would have one thing and JJ would have eggs because he ate them and I knew they were nutritious.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to allow yourself the grace to say, okay, this isn't the most nutritious meal my kids have ever had, but everybody's happy and we're on limited time. So you can do that sometimes. For me, it was tricky when I was a single mom because their dad didn't cook and he focused on junk food. So I felt the pressure was on me a lot more to make sure I had the healthy meals. So for me, McDonald's or pizza wasn't an option because although I think pizza is quite healthy, but they were not options for me because they'd already gotten 2 or 3 meals of that from their dad. So I had to focus on healthier things. But I think the way kids, they learn and their tastes change. I think sometimes you just have to kind of bite the bullet and say, this is what you're having for dinner. You liked it last week. You're going to like it again this week.
Exactly.
I just talked about it with my 24-year-old last night. We talked about the times when she would sit at the table for 45 minutes because she was refusing to eat. And her boyfriend said, in the nicest of ways, he said, but how can you force a child to eat when they're full? And even my daughter jumped in and she said, I wasn't full. I just was being difficult.
Yeah.
Right. So you can sort of hold them to a certain level without being nasty or abusive, but teaching them to appreciate what they have on their plate because there are, of course, people who don't have nearly as much.
Exactly.
And appreciate that somebody loves them enough to.
So, to the next question of the busy mom, and like you said, at that time where you were a single mom, you felt like it was the pressure on you. So, if we have either this busy single mom who's newly in a new relationship, or a married mom who's has like the pressures and everything on her, how do we get her to a place where she's even open to doing this cooking with her partner to build that relationship? What are the steps we take to make that possible?
The first thing that I always encourage everybody to understand, and I know this firsthand from experience, is that when we take the time to maintain our relationship with our partner, that benefits the kids as much as anything. So telling yourself, putting your relationship aside and saying, we'll have time together when we're older. Our son rises and sets on our kids right now. That's not good for anybody because we need adult time and adult interaction and adult stimulation and more than just, laying in bed before we go to sleep saying, oh, did we do this today? And did you see so-and-so did that or whatever? We need to have adult time. And I encourage parents to understand that taking the time with your partner and having these date nights, and I'm not talking 3 times a week, I'm talking maybe only even once a month, right? That making the time, setting aside this time to connect with your partner is as beneficial for your kids as it is for you because it makes you more relaxed and more satisfied and more stimulated, which means you're a better parent. Everything trickles down, right?
Yeah. We're created that way. And if we are overstimulated and overexhausted and all these things. That's what we're giving off. But if we take that time to refuel and pour back into each other, then there's not so much tension in the home. Like, we've lived that life before where everybody's just busy, busy, busy. And we look up and it's like, who are you? Like, where did this person come from? And then you have to go back to the place of reconnection. As a therapist, I see it all the time. And I'm like, when was the last time you guys had alone time? Not with the kids still looking at you like, no, really, when was the last time you guys went back to find out a new thing about each other or anything outside of like your chores and your responsibilities? So that's super important to do that connection. Like I said, I think this is an amazing idea. I want to try it, but I am like a bit of a control freak in the kitchen, and my husband, he will offer to help. But I want to know, like, what is your go-to meal or something simple for couples to do together, to cook together?
I have a wide variety of recipes that I encourage people to, or, that I'll do the
Mhm.
classes around. Normally, what I try to do is make it something that is a little more than basic and ordinary, but
Mhm.
something that doesn't need somebody with my skills to
Mhm.
complete.
Okay.
And everything that I do, every class that I teach, every recipe I share, I do it with the planned intention that whoever's doing it can reproduce what I'm doing. I don't ever want to teach somebody a class or send somebody information that they're going to fail.
Mhm.
So the classes that I have, um, I make them simple enough for people to follow along. But if we're going to make a date night of it, it can't be, open a package of pasta, put it in water and pour sauce over it, because that's a 10-minute date and that's
Yeah.
not much fun, right?
Right.
The recipes that I use are curated recipes by me. Some of them are my own inventions. Some of
Mhm.
them are tried and true recipes that I've been doing for years or something that I learned at school. And of course, when I was at school, like any school, you start at the bottom and you work your way up, right? So the ones
Yeah.
at the top are not the ones I'm going to share, but the ones at the
Mhm.
bottom are very much user friendly
Gotcha.
and they're traditional recipes.
Mm.
I also try to stay away from things that are really unusual because they're not going to appeal to a lot of people. I have thought about branching out and having two different options, more traditional and the slightly more unusual creative thing. I don't know if I'll do that, but I think that the meals that I offer are easy enough to replicate
Mhm.
and interestingly enough without being weird that
Yeah.
people will enjoy doing them, and you just have a delicious meal at the end of the day.
Right. That sounds amazing. I imagine that cooking together is something that can enhance communication between a couple, especially, and I'm thinking of like some of the couples that I've seen that have had struggles communicating and listening and understanding what their partner says. How do you see cooking together enhance communication and not causing like this blow up? All I'm thinking of, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. Like that's the first thing that I'm
Yeah.
hearing. But how do you curate that in a way that enhances communication without causing a dispute between the couple?
Well, the first thing that I do when I'm doing this is when a couple signs on to do a class or do the program, is to make sure everybody understands that what we're doing is
Hmm.
working together and
Hmm.
that this is not a competition. And, if you're a control freak like I am, you may have to take a moment to step back when
Hmm.
things, and I've done it myself, right? My boyfriend gets in here and he's doing something and I'm looking at him thinking, that's not the way I would do it. And then I'm like, okay, I can't do that. I can't do
Uh-huh.
that. Right. It's sometimes when you set the intention with yourself, and it's
Hmm.
almost like kids, right? When
Yeah,
you take your children into a store, you set the expectation before you
exactly.
go in. Okay, we're
Hmm.
not going to run around. We're not
Yeah.
going to take things off the record, whatever. So it's almost like you're setting an intention expectation with yourself is I'm going to participate in
Hmm.
this as a team
Hmm.
with my partner.
Yeah.
And remind yourself, because mindset is so important when it comes to these things, remind yourself that this is somebody you've chosen to spend your life with and you
Hmm.
love them. And
Hmm.
so you should be able to find a way to do
Hmm.
it. And sometimes it's just as easy as telling yourself, okay, I'm not going to say this because it's
Hmm.
fine. Either
Yeah,
way, it's going to work
exactly.
out. And the first time it might be tricky. And then
Mhm.
the second time it's a
It's
little easier.
easier.
But when you've done it, you've bonded with your partner, but you also will feel a sense of accomplishment with yourself, right? You'll say, wow, look at, I did this and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it's fun getting out of your comfort zone a little bit to have somebody in the kitchen. And that's where the bonding and the stretching comes from.
Exactly. And I like what you said when you're like, who else to be vulnerable with, right? Who else to let your guard down with? Who else to be different with? Because it's hard, right? Especially perfectionists, people with anxiety, all these things. Like this is innate in you, and like we have to really work hard to do something different. But if we've committed our lives and committed that we love this person and we want to build this relationship with them, then it's worth the work. Like it's hard. I'm not saying that this is easy, but it's definitely a factory reset, right? We have to reset our initial reactions, but I would gladly do it for my spouse because it ends up being funny, or it ends up being like, okay, like, yeah, we didn't do this right, or yeah, this turned out terrible. But I always can laugh at it with my husband. Like it's just, we've gotten to the point where it's like, you tried. Let's figure something else out. But I do think it enhances communication and it strengthens that ability to let it not be okay, to learn from each other, to find out new skills, right? All those things.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to mention too, which is something that I became very much aware of when I split up from my kid's dad, is that we want to set an example for our kids, right? And you think about, would you want your kids to grow up in a marriage where they didn't connect with their partner at all and they just were totally driven and didn't take time for themselves? Or would you want your children to emulate a relationship that the partners share a mutual bond, do things together, and have an adult fulfilling relationship? And I think that our kids learn so much from us. And, you know, the kids who grow up with their dad as a workaholic and is never home, well, then they think that's the way it has to be. And I would love people to start showing their kids what it's like to be in a loving relationship that's mutually respectful and fulfilled.
Now, I have another question, and I don't know if you have much experience about it, but I would love your opinion on it because, like, my kids love to be in the kitchen with me, and that's where my patience is really low because I'm like, even if it's bad, and I try to like control myself and close my mouth, and because they just want to pour stuff and do stuff, and I want to let them explore because this is something that's very sensory for them. But we have a relationship with our children as well. So how do we cultivate that relationship in the kitchen without losing our minds because they're making a huge mess? Do you have any insight on that?
Oh, for sure. And I struggled with that a little bit too, letting the kids in the kitchen. But if the kids want to be there doing something with you, then if you flip the way you look at it and you look at it as more of an experience with your kids than a chore of making a meal, then that brings on a different energy, right? And what I used to do with my kids was, I have three, but I only ever had two at once that wanted to be in the kitchen with me. And so I would lay the groundwork and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I would have them alternate helping me. So, you know, Paris, here, you're going to measure the flour and put it in. And then JJ, you're going to measure the sugar and put it in. And, you know, they would take turns. That way they weren't quibbling. And, you know, I was able to help them figure it out, but just one at a time, because it's overwhelming when you have more than one person coming at you, right? So, you know, telling the kids, putting all like physically almost one on each side and one on the other side. And then it generally worked out well. And I also allowed myself more time because it just takes longer, right? When you're doing something with a child. So, you know, instead of saying, I've got to get these cookies made in a half an hour, I would say, I'm going to give myself 45 minutes to make these cookies, or an hour even, right? So it's allowing yourself a little more time and looking at it, flipping the way you look at it. Instead of cooking and a chore, it's a bonding experience with your kids. And that just makes everything so much more magical, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm going to use that definitely because I know summer's coming. They're going to want to be in the kitchen a lot more.
How old are they?
They're 6 and 8. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, they want their hands in everything at that
in
age.
everything.
And
yeah.
to appease them too, another thing you can do is you can look for little recipes that they can participate in, like making meatballs or something, right?
Yeah, okay.
Get that creativity out of the way with something easy for them to do.
Okay.
And then they'll be ready to move on because their attention span's not
It's
long.
not
They're not
gonna,
going to want to
yeah.
be in the kitchen with you for 3 hours, right? So
Right.
find something easy you can share with them.
Mhm.
Then when they've gone, you do the sort of more complicated things.
So I want to see if you can share any success stories with our listeners about how cooking together has really enhanced some of your clients' relationships, or if you have any testimonials or just some things that's tangible for them to know, okay, yeah, this actually works. So they can be better ready to come find you for your assistance.
Absolutely. So I have one client that I've worked with, and she's amazing. She actually has a business and a Facebook group about tantric love, which I don't know all that much about. So you would think that she has an amazing relationship with her partner. And I think, in terms of the bedroom, she does. But still, there's more that she found that in terms of communication and, outside the bedroom that she wanted to do. And she started taking classes with me. And she's just been so happy. She always posts the pictures and she said, this has been an amazing experience. And my partner and I really love doing this together. Yeah, it's so much fun to see because people do these classes together, and in some ways it's kind of a safe environment because it's not like they've gone to a cookbook and pick something and hope it works out. They have somebody who's guiding them with the videos. I do everything in sort of like a monthly package that has talking points and interesting food facts. The video recordings are not just for the main dish, but there's always a little prep thing so they can warm up with smaller videos. But then when the main thing comes along, and she specifically is one that has said, this is tremendously beneficial for me, and my partner and I love doing it together, and we're excited for when our next class is coming.
Amazing.
So
I love that.
it really is fun.
It shows that even if you have success in other areas of your life, of your relationship, that there's always room for growth. And I tell people that all the time, no matter where you are on the spectrum, if you guys are struggling or if you guys are great, there's always room for growth. We can always find a way to enhance ourselves, enhance our relationships. And that's what this is all about. It's a growing journey. So I'm loving that so much. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I always encourage women to, don't hint to your partner, I saw this thing that looked kind of fun, but say, look,
you got to spill it out.
I found this. Let's do this together. Wouldn't it be wonderful, right?
Yeah.
But we don't always have to wait for the man to take the initiative because sometimes they just forget. So,
yeah,
it's put down your phone, get off the couch, and let's go do this date together.
Absolutely.
Whether we're newly dating or been married for 40 years, or if we're really super connected or not, a date night is always a great thing. And when somebody plans it for you, it's even better. Yeah.
So for the couples who are looking to try this, right, or looking to try to do a cooking date together, what advice do you have for them to get started?
I think the most important thing is to decide what it is you're going to make, and don't jump into something too complicated that's going to be frustrating.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't want that to be the thing that comes out of this where you're like, I'm never doing this again, right? We want it to be
right.
Yeah, I like how you said like that medium where it's not super easy, you just noodles and sauce, but it's something that you guys have to work together to cultivate. So yeah, I think my husband will be happy to hear this episode because he's like, yeah, we can do that.
You can let him in and create it together.
Yes, absolutely. I will try my best to do it. It's important. It's a good connecting thing, and we've never done anything like it before. So yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate this. This has been fun. I'm excited and looking forward to hearing all the reviews about people who have tried or are going to try this. It's just an honor to have you on with all of your knowledge and your creativity. Do you have a cookbook yet?
Well, that's one of my things I'm working on is I want to do a couples cookbook. And the closest I've come so far is I did a date night ebook, which is almost, I want to call it an idiot's guide to a romantic evening, but I did that together. I did some crock pot recipes for one group, and I went viral practically, 1,200 people asking for them. But I find a lot of cookbooks these days are not tried and true. They've got recipes that nobody can recreate, including myself. And I look at the recipe and go, no, no,
That's
no.
not gonna work.
So so definitely making a cookbook is one of those things I would love to do.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. So tell my audience how they can find you and let them know what to be looking forward to from you.
Well, the best place to see me and a little snippet of my life, and there's connections to socials, it's just on my Facebook page, which is
Okay.
Krista Malanson, Melanson. My Instagram is at _relationship chef, all one word. I have a couples cooking class coming out on June 19th. It's going to be live, just a master class. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. So anybody who wants to jump in and just see who I am and get a little taste of what it is that I do, then that's a great introduction to me.
Okay. Well, I might be able to switch some things around. And if I can get this one edited enough time, then we'll make sure that people can sign up for that. So I'll make sure I post the link. Send me the link for that directly. And I'll try to get that in the show notes as well. Okay.
Sounds great.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time to be here. I appreciate it so much. And I am looking forward to all that's to come from you. So thanks.
It was fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
That's all for today, and I hope that you're feeling inspired to navigate your shifts with grace and authenticity. If you enjoyed this episode, I want you to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a mom who may just need a little support and encouragement. Don't forget to connect with us on social media. We are on Instagram and Facebook at Momship Mastery, and those links are also in the show notes. Before we go, here's my little reminder. You are an incredible mom, and you have the power to nurture your inner well-being and create meaningful connections and relationships. Embrace the journey, cherish the moments, and continue to thrive in your momship journey. Until next